think most of you are been here before. You've probably heard Larry speak before. He's a very calm and deep speaker. His messages are always to the heart. And the thing that's unique about Larry, at least from my perspective, is he works in a funeral home. So he's familiar with the living and the dead and preparing them for those who have passed on onto their journey, and for the families to comfort and give them solace. So let's welcome this fine man, who happens to be a minister of the Fellowship of the Inner Light. And
Good morning.
Good morning.
I look forward to speaking to you, and certainly look forward to today. Recently, I was in my Masonic Lodge. I'm a member of the Masons. We were attending a meeting, and the master of our lodge was speaking about his journey to what we call the East to become the master. He spoke about the regrets he had along the way. And he told us that reaching this goal had taken him 5 years of hard work. 5 years of sacrificing his family. 5 years of sacrificing his time at work. He then stated that he had no regrets and that he was at peace with his decision, and thanked all of us for his support. He asked us all to think for a moment about something that happened in their life that they have always regretted. He asked us not to share them, but rather to take a moment and to reflect on this time. He asked us to put our regrets away and to move on with our lives, learning from rather than focusing on the negative. For in the difficult times, we become stronger. Later, Ken posted on his Facebook page a picture of the Masonic emblem, and embedded within it was this message: it is not always about the temple, but the light that shines within. Be the light. I always look for some inspiration when Bruce calls me to speak to you here at the fellowship, and these two messages resonated within me, and I wrote them down, and I allowed Spirit to guide me. First, I took a long look at the regrets I've had throughout my life, and I was overcome by a peaceful feeling, and a voice spoke from within me, telling me to lay them aside, telling me to understand that what I may have viewed as regrets were simply stepping stones in my soul's journey and my continuing story. This spark of light that started many years ago as I emerged from the source, this spark of light divided into two, the feminine and the masculine, to experience life for and as a part of the Creator for whom I will someday return. As I look back on my life and focused on the moments of regrets, I realized and understood that each of them gave me an experience that has helped me to grow even stronger. These moments we all experience in our lives that bring hardships, disappointment, or a sense of loss are simply building tools to make each of us more aware of our true selves and the great love that we possess within ourselves. I can remember a time some 25 years ago when Sharon and I decided to move our family from New York to Virginia Beach. I can remember the regrets of leaving family and friends behind, leaving jobs and a sense of comfort. As we traveled here, yes, there was the excitement of new beginnings, but in the mind of this Capricorn, there was also the fear of that unknown. As I look back on that moment, I realized that moving here was the best thing that ever happened to myself and to our family. In a small town in northern New York, there was no ARE. There was no Edgar Casey. There was no Fellowship of the Inner Light, nor the teachings of Paul Solomon. Still, I play the what-if game. The regret creeps in, and I know that if I had stayed there, I would have owned a funeral home and probably would have been retired by now. I would be safe and comfortable, financially secure. It's in these moments that I have my awe times, and I thank Spirit for reminding me that through the sense of regret, I can reflect on what I have gained, not what I have lost. I still have those friends in New York, and I still have my family there, except those who have crossed over. And now they are with me again whenever I choose to connect to them. Here I am able to serve my families as a funeral director in a way that would not have been possible in New York. There are like-minded people here, willing and able to accept the messages that I can bring them from their loved ones. Through this knowledge and understanding, I am no longer afraid to step out of the box as I'm doing here today with you, sharing who I am. One thing about the Fellowship of the Inner Light Church: how many other churches can I go to and tell the congregation that I watched a spirit walk through our visitation room yesterday? Or tell the congregation that you are God's? The place we choose to call our church is a very important part of all of our lives. This place is a living spirit and connects all of us to the universe that we are a part of. I can remember a long time ago meditating at home when suddenly I was swept away by angels and carried to a pool of water where I was disrobed and dressed in a beautiful white flowing gown and lifted into that pool of water. The pool was a part of a beautiful green glen and surrounded by lush plants and beautiful fragrant flowers. The water was clean and inviting. A waterfall fell into the pool and I was placed underneath it. And I can remember feeling that I was being cleansed and being prepared for something special. Next, I was lifted from that pool and carried to the top of the waterfall and placed on the ground where I waited. During the entire time, I was surrounded by angels, and everywhere I looked, they surrounded me as they all watched me with smiles on their faces. I could hear the sounds of the waterfalls gently falling into the pool, and I could feel an energy in the air that was made of pure love. Love that was unconditional. Love that gave comfort and knowledge that there was nothing to fear. The top of the waterfalls were part of a billowy white clouds, and I could see a figure approaching me, smiling, and a warmth came over me as I realized that Master Jesus was walking towards me. I stood in awe, and the angels parted, allowing him to approach. He placed around my neck a white stole and told me to go forth and teach. And then he quietly disappeared. I found myself returning to my body, and that memory of what happened is forever etched in my mind. About 2 weeks later, Bruce approached me in our church office and asked me to consider being an ordained minister in our church. It amazes me when we open ourselves to Spirit, what can and what will happen. As many of you know, family circumstances, and work have kept me away from this place I love for about 2 years. You have always remained an important part of my family, and I enjoyed the times I was able to attend and the time I was able to speak. Thank you. Do I have regrets? No. I don't, because by listening and trusting my inner voice, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be. Now I know it's time to come back. And I look forward to spending more time with you here. And soon we'll be leading Sunday services and taking an active role again in this church. And I thank each of you for that energy that has carried me back to this place. It is through this trust that I place in my connection to our Creator that allows me to understand everything that has happened for a reason, and that I am stronger because of it. When I had this experience at the waterfall with the Master, and in 2005 when I was ordained in this church and you accepted me as your minister, I understood that these decisions would take my soul's development to new heights, many that I'm not even aware of. Each of you are part of those new heights I hope to reach and experience. We all came to church today for many different reasons: to enjoy the music, to enjoy each other's company, or to hear today's speaker, or to recharge our spiritual batteries. One reason we came is not something you can put a label on. We came here led by an energy that this building and each of us share together. We are attracted to each other through like-minded thoughts and like-minded thinking. The building and our personal temple resonates with this loving energy that we produce. In January, we were led by Sarah at our beautiful and deeply meaningful altar ceremony that many of us were a part of. During this ceremony, we were all able to participate and feel the loving energy of our church as we magnetize the altar and recognize this place as a living being. This is the living and connecting energy that binds us together each Sunday. This is the energy that we carry with us throughout the week as we go about our lives. When we leave here, our thoughts may turn to each other and to this fellowship. And these thoughts we have are powerful. Do not underestimate the effect this has on you, and allow yourself to feel and continue this experience we are having today in every part of your life. I look at what our speakers have shared. I often bring the bulletin home so I can reread the readings that we've been given. I bring into focus the people who have lighted candles and spoke about their intentions and prayers. And I focus on them and send my love to them throughout the week. Sarah and Marty lovingly and with great intentions watch over our altars. When a candle is nearing the end, they place it in a drawer for us to take home if we wish. I have one of these in my home, and I often light it for someone I know who needs our love and prayers, or for someone who has crossed over. I believe this candle resonates our love for one another, and the flame represents our light within. It is not by accident that during the coming week we may find ourselves daydreaming and suddenly we remember the words of a song here today. We may whistle this week. These remembrances that come to us are triggered by our spirit guides. These guides who are constantly with us as we go through our everyday lives when we are awake and when we are sleeping. I would wager that if you kept a journal of these random events, you would find that these thoughts are not as random as you may believe, but rather you will find that they are all connected and they all have a purpose. You may find by comparing notes with each other that each of us are having similar experiences and similar thoughts. If we have examined what we have written and what others have written, we would see the signs of this connection. How many times have you all had the experience of thinking of someone and your phone rings and it's them? This is not by chance, but rather what you have just experienced is how this universe of ours flows. Through the constant exchange of our thoughts, creating, we are ahead of what our brain is telling us. When we understand and recognize this is happening, a world opens up around you, and you can begin to remember who you truly are and that you have everything you need within yourself to be happy and to stay connected to the love that the Creator is. My work as a funeral director takes on many twists and turns on a daily basis, working with families with many different beliefs and customs. Each family is unique, and we extend ourselves to each of them. I often hear them tell me words of regret. I should have, I could have, I didn't. I gently remind them that things happen for a purpose. Things happen for a great understanding that we all always recognize and understand. Losing someone you love is the most devastating time in your life. I plant seeds in the hope that what seems unsurmountable may become a little easier to bear later. This past week, we had a funeral for a 3-year-old child who died from problems she had had since birth. A beautiful child and even a more beautiful soul, I was to learn later. I have worked at funeral homes since 1976, and I believe I can remember every child who I have cared for and who I have grieved for. I have learned that there are no words of comfort, but rather your presence and your love is what is needed most and felt during these times. When we prepared this child for her family, I could not help but shed a tear. And when I finished, I quietly blessed her and thanked her for the brief life that she had here. As the day went by, I later found myself sitting quietly in a room, and I could feel that I was not alone. There was a tingling sensation on the back of my neck, and this was telling me that the guides wanted my attention. I gave myself to them and opened myself to whoever was near me and wanted to communicate. It didn't take long for this beautiful soul to speak to me. She told me that her family that was left in our world wouldn't understand the reasons for her leaving so soon, although later this experience would allow them to grow and to overcome some past events in their lives. She simply asked that I would focus and then send them healing, and above else, send them love. Then she left as quickly as she came. During the service, I allowed myself to go within and ask the healing angels to be with them. And as the service continued, I was able to send them loving energy and will continue to do so to help them through these painful times. When I look at my job as a funeral director, yes, I sometimes have regrets about the challenges of the hours I have to spend away from my family, and including my fellowship family, and the emotional toil that it places on me. These regrets are quickly forgotten, and I thank the Creator for allowing me to co-service with the angels, elementals, and the ascended masters, and yes, a loving God who lives within me to help someone in need. These moments remind me that I am exactly in the place that I need to be. We have been given tools to use if we only slow down and take a moment to apply themselves. These tools can bring focus into our lives and help us to understand the challenges that we each face. For example, before this service began, we were led in the 7 Terrace meditation. Through understanding this guided meditation, we can apply it to many aspects of our lives. I often come and just sit and listen, allowing the meditation to take me where I need to be. Other times I come with a purpose, seeking an answer or guidance about a situation that is bothering me. Today I place this thought and would use as an example a regret that I am harboring, and seeking an answer to it. As I begin the meditation, I repeat this regret as a mantra to myself. Behind me on the wall hangs a beautiful painting by James Jack of the mountain. I have a copy of this framed at my home to enjoy, and its presence is always a reminder that this mountain is always there waiting for me. Briefly walk with me today as I take this mantra with me and climb my mountain. I always begin by entering the meadow through the tall grass, feeling the warmth of the sunshine on my face as I move towards a large tree with open branches, reaching upwards to the mountain behind it. As I enter the red terrace, I remind myself that I expect to be changed by this experience. This garden brings excitement and brings about feelings of rebirth as I continue to focus on the mantra that I have brought with me. I soon find that the pathway leads into the orange garden, where I again repeat the mantra and say to myself, "This day I forgive." Through forgiveness, I am free, and I begin to release myself from this regret, allowing myself to become all I can be and all I can imagine myself to be. Forgiveness breaks the bonds that's holding you down. The yellow garden awakens all possibilities within me. It is here we discover who we are. The future is before us, and the past is behind. It is in this terrace of regret that this regret I'm harboring begins to slip away even more, and I begin to understand that my life will go on without it. Next, I continue to climb the mountain's pathway, and I find the yellow turning to green as I enter the garden of the heart, the garden of healing, of balance. It is a gateway to the highest heavens. In this cool, plush green garden, I am greeted by a familiar figure. Maybe my spiritual guide, it may be my garden angel, maybe an ascended master. They walk with me, acknowledging to me that I am never alone, that they are my constant companion. We continue to walk together as we are one, and this living love we share opens my heart. The gateway to my higher self is opened. My companion and I continue and marvel at how good it feels to be loved unconditionally. The journey of regret travels next to the Blue Garden. This place brings clarity as I merge in harmony with the divine will within me. It brings clarity as I repeat again the mantra of my regret, and it slips away to understanding and gives me clarity to its purpose and how it has brought my experience to a place of understanding, and I give thanks to the divine within me. The regret has brought me even closer to my true understanding of why we have experiences that are difficult. In this place, we accept the Creator's will to elevate our soul's purpose. I feel myself lifted to the violet garden, the garden of the third eye, the garden of perception. It is here I see all things as they truly are, not colored by opinion or judgments. I take full responsibility for this perceived regret. I am grateful for all things and at all times. I ask to be lifted beyond the violet mist into the garden of pure white light. In this garden, I have reached my temple. This garden brings you to a place where you are in harmony with your Creator. In this place, my temple appears as a large gray stone castle with a massive oak door. I approach my door without hesitation because it is a place that I have visited many times. When the door opens, I am greeted by a familiar man dressed in white robes, and his kind face and his smile beckon me to enter. I have been here before, and I know that if I turn to the left, I will go to the Hall of Records where my book is kept, a book that I have seen and experienced. Straight ahead is a healing room where a violet transmuting flame will heal and take away my fears, and yes, take away my regret. If I turn to the right, there is a darkened hallway. I have never been down there. Someday I would like to. For now, I have not seen what is within that part of my temple. It's still a mystery. When I am in this place, I can feel the love of the Creator in every cell of my body as I complete this journey. Understanding and the knowledge is given to me, and it wipes away the regret that I have brought with me as I walk into the healing room and allow the violet flame to dissolve all feelings of wrong and doubt. As I leave, I thank the doorkeeper, and I look at the view from the mountaintop. There are clouds below me, and the castle is surrounded by a white light. I can see a white light surrounding myself, as this experience has touched my very soul with the pure love of the Creator. This meditation is one of the things that is uniquely ours at the Fellowship of the Inner Light, a great gift from our founder, Paul Solomon. This meditation will move you from a place of outer distractions to a place of inner tranquility, where you can experience your God self. As you have just heard, it takes you to a meadow at the foot of a beautiful mountain. You will walk a pathway entering 7 different colored gardens, taking you to the top. Each garden has a color associated with it, and it carries its own special message as you ascend and soon leave behind the everyday worries of your life. It teaches our minds to meditate. It teaches us to let go of what is holding us back. You will leave this place relaxed, and with practice it will help you to meditate easily. The meadow is the key to the beginning of this journey, and it should be a place where you feel relaxed and you can open your inner senses. I love to walk barefoot through the grass there, and I can feel the coolness on my feet, and I feel the warmth of the sun on my face. I can hear birds singing. I can feel the wings of butterflies as they flutter by me. When I go to the shade of the tree, I can reach out and touch the bark. I can see the leaves moving with the gentle breeze. I look to the mountain and see the colors of the pathway, and I can see the top of the mountain hidden in white clouds, waiting for me to enter. Everyone's meadow and mountain will be different, and each time you enter it will be a different experience. Sometimes I go no further than the meadow, or I will go to a specific garden to receive what I am seeking. Or, as I just described to you, I will go to the top with a purpose, such as a regret that I need to overcome and to understand. When I come down the mountain, I always step to the top edge and jump. I find myself floating down the mountain, past the terraces, and the colors go by me, and I gently land in my garden where I pause and reflect on this experience. And I always give thanks to this place, and I always give thanks to that special moment in time. Following the teachings of Paul Solomon and using the tools he gives us can be a great source of comfort. His Inner Light Conscious courses are wonderful and are occasionally made available to us at the fellowship by certified instructors. You can go to the websites and access his readings. You can watch videos of Paul teaching. There are books with his reading and the information about him. Some of these are found in the lending library we have located in our upper room. One day, after browsing through some of Paul's readings, I decided to meditate, and I want to share this experience with you today. I remember quieting myself and going to my meadow, where instead of going to the mountain, I was led down a different pathway. This pathway led to a river, and when I reached the river's edge, I was greeted by a Native American man paddling a canoe. He came around the corner and paddled up to me and asked me to join him. I could see in the distance a village full of activity. There were people at the edge of the water, children playing, and teepees as far as I could see. I could hear the sound of drums playing, and as I climbed into the canoe, he smiled and he welcomed me. I felt safe and found that we could communicate without a spoken word. I reached for a paddle, and then we quietly approached the village. When we arrived, the people came to greet me with great enthusiasm, and I felt welcomed, and strangely, I felt as if I had been there before. I was led through the village and felt the love that was present, a love for one another and a love for the land and the river on which they lived. As the sun was setting, it became darker, and again I was drawn to the sounds of the drums. Soon I found myself at the edge of a circle with a fire in its center, and the men of the village were dancing around this fire. I joined them and lost track of time and where I was. I then found myself leaving the circle and walking a short distance down a pathway with the man who had shared the canoe with me. We stopped, and he told me to enter the teepee, and I would find the grandfather there who wished to speak to me. I looked around and saw no teepee. I did not know where to enter. When he read my thoughts, he pointed upwards. I looked up and saw the teepee floating in the air and felt myself floating to its entrance. I entered, and as I looked around, I felt the warmth of the fire, and there was an old man with long white hair and a smile upon his wrinkled face. He wore a robe that was white with fringes and appeared to be made of buckskin. He was sitting cross-legged on the other side of the fire in the center of the teepee. He motioned for me to sit and to join him. We communicated through our thought rather than words. As I sat down, he told me he wanted to give me a gift, and we closed our eyes and we meditated together. I soon had a vision and saw myself as a woman shaman of this tribe. I could tell that I was loved and greatly admired by all the people. I lived in a simple hut far away from the main village, near the edge of the river. And as I sat by the edge of the river, I could hear footsteps of several people rushing to my camp. They all spoke at once and told me that a child had fallen and hit her head on a rock and could not be awakened. I picked up my medicine bag and ran to the camp as fast as I could, feeling in my heart that this child was in trouble. I found her with her parents and her family surrounding her, all crying out in grief. And I could quickly see that this innocent child had died of her injuries. Flashing before me were scenes of her life, when she was born, playing with other children, and being held by her parents. I quickly knelt over her and reached into my bag and brought out a handful of plants that I had collected. I chanted over her, asking the great spirits to have mercy on her, telling them that this was not the end of her journey. I looked upon her face, and she opened her eyes. She smiled and reached out to me with a hug. As the tears rolled down my face, I gave thanks to the great spirits for the miracle that they had performed. I looked around me, and I saw that the entire village had gathered around this child in a circle, and that she and I were in the center. In this moment, I returned to the teepee with the grandfather, and he told me that I was a powerful shaman, and the most important thing in this lifetime I had learned was the power of the circle. Through this collective circle, focusing on our intentions to our Creator, we are able to do what I would have thought impossible. The circle of love I experienced was one of the most powerful experiences that I have ever been shown. The voice of the grandfather softened, and he told me that he would always be here waiting for me. And then I found myself where I had begun this meditation. Yes, I have visited him again. We talk, and sometimes I just listen. Much later, he revealed his name to me. That'll be another talk. At the end of today's service, we will gather in a circle, bringing closure to the time that we have shared together. We will reach out and take the hands of the person next to us, forming a bond and acknowledging that we have all come together as one and will carry with us the living energy created today. Today I would ask each of you to place in the center of the circle a regret that you may have in your life. Place it in the center and release it with the understanding that our thoughts create, and you are creating yourself anew, free from this regret. We will then finish today with the Om chant, the basic sound of our world, connecting us to all living beings, to nature, and to the universe. Later, when I look back at my Facebook page again and see that Masonic emblem and the message within that reads, "It's not always about the temple, but the light that shines within you. Be the light, and then I will think of each of you. Thank you very much.